Welcome back to A Conversation. I'm Zeb Boykin, and today I have Mr. Russell Fry.
Good to be here.
He is currently sitting in House Seat 106 and running for 7th Congressional District. How you feel about that one?
It's good, man. It's been like drinking water out of a fire hose lately, but it's been really good.
Yeah, I bet so. I bet it's a lot. That's probably going to be a difficult transition, I guess. Maybe not too difficult, but a lot more on your plate than maybe what you're used to.
I'll tell you, I think the legislature in a lot of ways, in my current seat, the legislature in a lot of ways is good training ground for something like this, because you have to forge relationships with people, you have to get things done, you have to know the rules of the House and how to move things when you need to. And so I think we're certainly well prepared. If you look at our state, a lot of the congressmen and senators that we have started in the South Carolina House, started in the South Carolina Senate. So in a lot of ways, we have a pretty good, it's a pretty good farm team, so to speak, for Congress.
Yeah, that experience is going to help you a lot.
I think so.
I think if you get this win this election. Just one thing to mention real quick. You got the Trump endorsement. Yeah. Congratulations on that. Yeah. That's I think that's a big deal, and that'll take you a long way by itself.
I think so, and it was really cool. One of the things that I loved the most about the calls that I've had with him is how dialed in President Trump is to South Carolina, how dialed in he is not only to just national issues, but really regional. I mean, he understands really kind of what's going on in the states, and he sees it, and he pays attention to it. So I think in a lot of ways, he's very excited about the future, where we're headed in 2022 and maybe 2024. We'll see how that goes. But, he understands, like a lot of us do, that we have a country to save, and we need to put the right team in place to be able to effectively push back on the most radical administration this country has ever seen with Joe Biden. So happy to be on the team, happy to have that endorsement and have that partnership.
Yes. And another thing, your marketing team, I guess, I don't know if you've seen the commercial. I might play a couple seconds of it.
Okay, everybody, remember, this is a safe space. We're here to get some things off our chest. We've all done things we're not so proud of. We haven't had a congressman here in a while, so let's go ahead and start with Tom, is it? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tom Rice.
Hi, Tom.
You don't have to say your last name.
It's okay, I'm a politician. I like the sound of my own name. Anyway, I said it was for term limits, and I've been in Washington more than 10 years. I supported tax increases, and I even voted to impeach President Trump.
That's cold.
Let me guess. You're from San Francisco?
No, Myrtle Beach.
Tom, I think it's time for you to, just go ahead and leave. Yeah.
Even I wouldn't have done that.
Well, I didn't think he was so bad. You should be wearing your mask, by the way.
No one has the likes of you, Fauci.
Let's kick another villain out of D.C. and vote for President Trump's choice. Vote Russell Fry for Congress.
I'm Russell Fry, and I approve this message.
But that commercial got you a little bit of traction.
I think so. Yeah, we had fun with it. I'll tell you, if you're running for a race, whatever it is, whether it's local school board all the way up to president, you got to have a little bit of fun. So that ad was a lot of fun to do. I think it delivered a message that people wanted to hear, that resonates with people, but it was also funny too. So
yes.
We enjoyed making that and making a kind of a humorous approach to politics, because some people, some people
you got to be able to laugh no matter
Yeah.
what your position is
Exactly.
on that ad itself. You got to be able to laugh and enjoy, what the world has to offer.
That's right.
All right, I guess a little bit more serious stuff. Why are you making that transition into Congress? You've been in the House 2 years?
I've been in the House since 2015.
Oh, 2015. Okay. So 7 years almost. Why are we going to Congress? What?
Great question. I'm an Eagle Scout, and one of the mottos of the Boy Scouts is leave your campsite better than you found it. And I think that applies also to public service, whether you're running whatever office it is. It applies to all of us. Leave your church better than you found it. Leave your community better than you found it. So, for me, it's one of the things. And you look at the direction of our country. You look at the direction of this district and where we're headed. And people want two things. They want honest brokers, and they want somebody who's engaged in the issues, who aren't afraid to talk about the thorny issues that we as a country face every single day. You know, I grew up in a household, we didn't have a lot. And we don't have time to sit around and wait for folks in D.C. to understand what their people are actually going through. I mean, we got record gas prices, we've got shortages and supply chain issues all across. It's affecting people in the Grand Strand, it's affecting people in the PD, it's affecting people all across this country. And the ones who suffer the most are people like I grew up with, middle class Americans who are really trying to fight every single day to put food on their table. And so I look at the direction we're going and say, we need a shakeup, we need to change. And at the end of the day, our congressman let us down when he voted to impeach President Trump, when he authorized the January 6th commission, when he continues to double down, when Democrats are using his voice to weaponize and marginalize conservative voices all across this country, there's a problem. And so that's my motivation in running for this seat, is that we need a new generation of Republican leaders to take up the mantle, to be aggressive, to get things done, to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. President Trump did that. President Trump is backing people who have a consistent approach of doing that. We've done that at the state house level in championing some of the issues that we've been dealt with in the last couple of years, and we're going to continue to do that as the next congressman from the 7th District.
Absolutely. I would agree with just about everything you said there, with no issue at all.
Yeah.
You sit in the House seat, and y'all have a couple of bills on the table right now. One that just came through was Save Women's Sports Bill.
Right.
Which is a big issue nationally right now.
Yeah.
And South Carolina's doing something about it. You know, if you want to speak on that real quick, you can.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, I think it's so weird in this country right now that this is even an issue. But unfortunately, it is, and it's in our schools, it's in our communities, it's all across the country. And so South Carolina said, you know what, men should compete against men, and women should compete against women. The end. I mean, that is at the end of the day the fundamental principle of that bill. And so the South Carolina House has been a long time coming. There's actually been 3 different bills that basically said the same thing, and finally made it through right before the crossover deadline. So was real pleased about that. Democrats put up about 1,000 amendments in the legislature to block that bill and to really, to keep it from hitting the deadline. But because we were able to effectively work on the floor, we were able to get a lot of those amendments, pushed away and pass that bill onto the Senate.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good step forward.
Yeah.
Maybe a step that we probably shouldn't even have to take.
I know, that's the strange thing about where we are right now as a country when you think about it, but it is, it's unfortunately necessary right now. Yeah. that we, women who work their whole lives in whatever sports that they want to play are now competing against biological males.
That's right. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know
it's not even a fair playing field.
I don't know if that works in Dillon. It doesn't work in Horry. It doesn't work anywhere.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't work in Dillon County, and I tell some people, we're a small town in Dillon, and it takes, at least on the cultural issues, it takes another 5-10 years before we even have to deal with it. But if we can stop it at the state level, then we won't even have to deal with it.
Right.
Which is a good thing, I think. And you talk about the Democrats filibustering and adding amendments, and the Republicans wanting to pass this bill. We elect everybody, and they are representatives.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your opinion on election integrity and how we should go about doing that?
Great question. So I've been working on election integrity bills since before 2020, and for some reason I just kind of fell into that field. But it is so important. South Carolina has, according to the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank, we have the 8th most secure elections in the country. So a lot of our laws, a lot of the structure that's in place is good. We have voter ID as an example. That's one metric. But they weight a whole bunch of things when they came up with this. But I always take the approach, it's important to realize and recognize that people need to have confidence in the outcome, no matter who wins. And so you have to have things in place, common sense things in place, that you are who you say you are, Zeb. When you go to vote, that is who you are, and you cast your ballot however you cast your ballot. People need to have confidence, and right now they don't. And so in the legislature, we've actually passed 2 bills, and there's a lot of different things that are part of those bills, but things like banning Mike Zuckerberg from Facebook in dumping millions of dollars into certain counties that are of a bluish hue. We ban that in South Carolina. We don't need to have third parties funding our elections. That's a core function of government. So we deal with that. We deal with fusion voting. We deal with voter ID for absentee, so that if you vote in person, like I do and you probably do, if you do that by absentee, you also have to have a photo ID. So there's a lot of great things about the bill. One of the best components, though, is that it standardizes the practices all across every single county. And so there's a framework right now in the law that counties have to abide by, but there is some discretion, right? And so we say that a vote and the procedures in Darlington County should be the same in Dillon, should be the same in Horry, should be the same in Richland. And so standardizing those election processes is really good. Banning drop boxes, things like that. So I was proud to be a part of those bills, co-sponsor them, and also lead the charge in the House on passing those bills. They're currently in the Senate. We hope in the final weeks that they take those up. But again, from a federal standpoint, Congress doesn't need to dictate a lot. I think elections are functions. If you're a small government conservative and you're a 10th Amendment conservative, elections are dealt with at the state and the local level, and they should continue to be. So this idea of Nancy Pelosi federalizing our national elections, taking away the state's ability to govern their own elections, that's a big red flag to me. It's a big problem, and I would absolutely and vehemently oppose every effort to federalize our elections.
Okay. Yeah, election integrity is a touchy subject for some reason. I feel like it's common sense. The more secure we can have an election, the more confidence you have in your vote actually counting.
Right. I'll say it too, to that, people said years ago before I was in the legislature that photo ID would diminish the ability of people to go to the polls, that the voter turnout would be less because we passed a voter ID bill. That has proven to be 100% not true. More people are voting now, percentage and total population, than have ever voted before. And so these bills are measured, they make sense, they protect the integrity of the ballot box, but they also protect your right to vote as well, making it easy. I think the fundamental philosophy that governs me is make it easy to vote and hard to cheat.
Yeah, I think that's a solid philosophy.
It's pretty easy.
It's pretty easy, pretty common sense.
Yeah.
Another thing that we could go on election integrity is immigration. You have increased immigration, and they get to vote also sometimes.
Yeah.
So where are you at on immigration?
I'll tell you, I've done a lot of work on the opioid epidemic in South Carolina, in the General Assembly. And what is so disheartening to me is that local governments, Dillon County, City Myrtle Beach, whomever, they can do, the state of South Carolina, we can do a lot to help people transition back to a productive life, get them treatment, get them cleaned up. But when our border is so porous that fentanyl is coming across and poisoning our communities, that's a big problem. When human trafficking, which I've done a lot of work on too, is prevalent in every single community all across this country, and the biggest culprit is the lack of security, a lack of a wall at the southern border. I think the federal government is asleep at the wheel. I think the Biden administration is definitely asleep at the wheel, and we really have to get back to a simple fix. Build the wall, make sure that we have adequate security, make sure that people come to this country legally. Right now, people are coming in and we don't know who they are, and then they escape and they get fake aliases. And it's a problem on a whole host of levels. But you see this and you talk to people, and law enforcement will tell you consistently that the drugs that are in this country, that the human trafficking that is in this country, a lot of it is because of the nature of our southern border. And Joe Biden and Congress haven't done a thing in 2 years on that. We had the securest border in the country, and on day one, the Joe Biden administration rolled back a lot of the Trump immigration policies that worked, that law enforcement said worked. So I really don't understand, and people feel it. They feel the frustration every single day from the trafficking side, the drug side, just the immigration side in general. I had a supporter of mine in Florence, and she came from Honduras legally. And she said, I'm so frustrated that I did all these things the right way, this is the first election, this coming up one on June 14th, this is the first election that I can vote in. And I'm so excited, but I'm so frustrated at our leaders in Washington who aren't doing a thing about the border.
Yeah. It is frustrating. And you see it on the news all the time about, I believe they just came out saying that they're giving them phones to call in and check in after they let them through.
Right.
They cross the border criminally.
Right.
You think they're really going to call you and check in? So it's just a free phone for some of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, immigration is definitely a hot topic also. We live in Dillon County.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of farmers around here.
Yeah.
And agriculture. And they're very opinionated people. How would we, how would you go about maybe helping them out on agriculture or something?
Well, I think it's a big thing. I think in the state house, what we've done is when catastrophe strikes, like with the hurricanes, we've been very aggressive as a state, and I was part of that on some of the aid to our farmers. I think that's important. But even more importantly, too, we look at the world stage. I mean, the price of fertilizer, is up 43% in a year. And when farmers are counting on that and their margins are continually shrinking, this is a result, in my opinion, of a diminished capacity on the world stage. Ukraine is a big reason why we are in this. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is a big culprit of the fertilizer spike. And when you have a diminished capacity on the world stage and people who are asleep at the wheel in the federal government, this is what weakness looks like. And so we have to get back to governing from strength, but that helps indirectly the farmers. I think farming, having an ear to the farming community, having an understanding. I work with Farm Bureau on the state level on things routinely. That is a huge, agribusiness is either the leading, depending on the year, either the leading or the second leading industry in South Carolina. We have to cultivate that. We have to have a seat at the table. We have to make sure that we're advocating for our people back home, because they're working hard every single day. And even though I was talking to a cotton gin today, and the price of cotton is up from a sales perspective, so that actually is a good thing. But when you marginalize it on the back end with the increased cost of fuel, with the shortage of labor, with the increased cost of fertilizer, it becomes a problem. And you have to have an aggressive Congress. You have to have an aggressive leaders that understand the needs of the farming community. And we've done that at the State House. We're going to continue to do that as your next congressman.
Absolutely. We should definitely help out the farmers as much as we can.
Absolutely.
That's why we're able to eat.
That's right.
Like we do.
I have no problem with that either. Eating's not a problem with
me. Me neither. Well, Mr. Russell, anything you want to add before we close this thing up?
I'll tell you, it's been a really great experience running for Congress, listening to people, being in different communities, different counties, understanding the needs of our community. One of the things I've always worked on is trying to be an ear and trying to be a resource for people. The things that get to play the most in anything is the votes that you take, right? The positions you take on Save Women's Sports, on a gun bill, on abortion, whatever the case is. But really important are local issues. Local issues matter. They help your people succeed. They really help bring about effective change within your communities. And when you can look at things that you've helped out with and say, I was a part of that, where you can lead somebody and get a better result, that's really what this is about. It's about people. It's about putting your best foot forward, not being a wallflower. I think people expect their leaders to be active. They expect them to be engaged. We've done that consistently at the State House level, really trying to make sure that we're responding to the needs of constituents, that we're helping them out, and that we're voting the right way. I think this election, again, we're here because our congressman doesn't listen to us. He doesn't listen to the needs of the people. So we want to be that voice. We want to be that resource. And even if people disagree with me, I expect that, because sometimes that happens. You're never going to agree with your elected official 100% of the time. Heck, my wife and I don't even agree all the time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I want to be that workhorse for the 7th, the whole 7th, the Grand Strand and the PD. I think there's a lot of benefit to being in that seat and really helping to be a glue that holds communities together, that really pulls people together on the same page to really drive an effective policy, whether it be on a national issue or something small and local. And so we're going to be that. We're going to be everywhere we possibly can be in a campaign, and we're going to do the same thing in Congress.
Yep. Well, Russell, you're fairly young, motivated, at least from what I can tell, and we look forward to possibly winning and maybe seeing good things from you in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a true honor to be here today and talk to you and talk to your viewership. We're going to continue to operate the campaign the same way that we want to govern, which is in the communities and having that local pulse.
Yes, sir. And thank you for coming too.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Zeb.